Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very rare and very difficult to breed species. This is Calosaturnia walterorum, also known as Walter's silkmoth. This species is a legend and a beauty. It is found in California and the Baja California area of Mexico. It's renowned for its bright and beautiful orange color, but it's also very difficult to breed in captivity outside of its native habitat. So unless you have a lot of experience with silk moths, it's best to choose a different species. But if you are ready for a true challenge of your ability as a breeder, this one will certainly suit you. In 5 steps. The eggs of this species can be incubated in a plastic petri dish. This is perhaps the most easy part of breeding them. Important to know is that the eggs take over a month to hatch. A lot of people buy the eggs of this moth species and then throw them into the trash, just because they assume their eggs are not fertile. You see, most silk moth species take about 10 to 15 days to hatch in captivity, so people just assume it applies to this species as well. Wrong. The eggs of this species can take 3 to 6 weeks to hatch depending on temperature. If you are one of the people who made this mistake, I won't get mad or condescending because your loss is painful enough. But it is a good example of why you need to do research before breeding any species. Whether or not that is reading books, watching YouTube videos or finding online breeding guides, that's totally up to you. But do your research first, please. After 3 to 6 weeks, you will see a bunch of teeny little babies appear. These little wormies are the first instar of Calosaturnia walterorum. They are mainly black with small hairy bristles. And they have to be fed as soon as possible. These small creatures can quickly starve if they are not tended to in 24 hours. They are going to grow in a rare species of moth, only found in California and a small part of Mexico. For the babies, you basically have 2 options. Small plastic box or big plastic box. Small plastic box or big plastic box. Let me show you the first option. First option is actually very simple. You take a plastic box and you add a generous amount of paper towels, a very thick layer, and you add some food plant on top. There you go. That's it. That's the first setup. This setup is a little bit more risky, but it works if you change the food often and keep it fresh. The food plants they can use? If you want to breed this very rare species in captivity, shoot your shot. It's not gonna be easy, I warn you. It's a difficult one. But some of the best plants to use are Rus species or sumac, arbutus species, also known as madrone where they come from, but in Europe we have strawberry tree, which is also an arbutus. It works. Liquid amber or sweet gum, believe it or not, it is not a native food plant for them, but they will eat it in captivity. Or you can use manazita or arctospilos, which is probably the best possible host plant to use for them, because it's one of their main host plants in the wild. However, I do not have manazita here where I live in Europe. However, it's enough to get started. What we do is we scoop up the babies with a paintbrush. Oops, that one fell here. And place them in here. Now, in a container I included several types of plants. The babies will be able to choose their favorite plant on their own, I suppose, and see which one they prefer eating. That was it so far. All these eggs here are still about to hatch anytime soon. So for that we have to be a little bit more patient. But before that time the first 2 babies are out. Here I have a mix of plants that they supposedly can eat. It's arbutus, rus and liquid amber. And the babies will choose the plant they like the most themselves, I suppose. Let's put a lid on and check back later. If all goes right, the larvae will start feeding and growing. Pay attention to the cleanliness and an excess of moisture. They hate being too humid. The 2 things that I just mentioned are also the most important. Prevent mold and prevent condensation of any kind if you can. After a while, you'll see ones that turn orange. Those are the ones that have grown to the second life stage, and it means that you are making progress. Second option is the big plastic box. Ultimately, the moths are going to outgrow their little tiny plastic box. I believe that giving them lots of space is very important, so what can you do? Let me show you. First, get a big plastic box, like this one. Second of all, you grab a can or a bottle and fill it with tap water. After you fill a can with water, you put in the food plant. In this case, in this video, I have chosen to use rus or sumac. It's a plant I rarely use in my videos. It's just because of my environment and climate. It's actually a very good plant to use for many different types of silk moths. So what you do is you take this and you place it in. Next you could add a layer of paper towels if you want, here on the bottom of the container. If you want, it's not mandatory, but it helps to clean stuff up. You put it here on the floor. What you can also do is you can take a piece of paper and shove it here in the neck of the bottle or the can. Because caterpillars are kind of stupid, they will crawl in here and drown. You don't want them to get inside and drown in the water, so you close it off. Now, you could use a solid plastic lid if you want. I use a solid lid for the first instars because when they are young, they can still tolerate high humidity. But you can also use a lid that you made a hole in. Oops, this is a too big lid for too big box, wrong example. Perhaps it looks more like this. This is the kind of lid that I can use for the later instars, not the young instars. But both is acceptable, I think. There you go. You can use a netting, throw it around the box and then put on the lid, just like that. Yeah. This might be a type of setup that the caterpillars could feed on. Interesting. That's how you do it. Now let me show you what I did next during this breeding project. Yep, the second method just involves placing them in a plastic container since the beginning. It's a bit more risky, but it gives them a lot more space. And it allows you to breed a higher number of caterpillars relatively more easily, with less maintenance. Slowly but surely they are growing. I primarily decided to feed them sumac. And here is a bunch of babies that literally just crawl out of their eggs. Hopefully, if we follow the 5 steps, we can raise them into moths. Look, some of them are already becoming the second instar inside of the plastic box. The second instar is actually quite pretty. It becomes rather bright orange, and it is easy to distinguish it from the small and black first instar. Now here's a fun fact. Most of the time the caterpillars of this moth only have 4 instars in total. The walterorum are growing perfectly. It's a little bit suspicious how well they are growing. In the third life stage, the larvae become quite colorful. That is quite enjoyable if you ask me. Do be careful, because the caterpillars of this species have very tiny venomous spines. Don't be afraid though, the sting is mostly harmless it seems. It will just give you tiny bumps on your skin and a tingly sensation. These lemony colored ones are the third instars, and from now on I use a different setup. Once the caterpillars grow big enough though, I personally raise them in pop-up cages. The hardest part from this point and beyond is keeping the humidity and temperature right, and for that I have a secret weapon. Now from the final instar I prefer to rear them in a cage, a big insect cage here. And what I do is I take the bottles with the sumac. This one is a bit dried out and old, but there's still caterpillars in it, so I'm gonna put them here inside of a big plastic box with paper towel, just like that. It's a bit inconvenient, but it works, trust me, it works. Then I'm gonna shove this whole box inside of this cage here. Whee! And the larvae will rear themselves in this enclosure. Of course, then we close the zipper, just like that. And I rear them indoors. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a dehumidifier. I used it to dehumidify the room that the caterpillars were in to make it more dry. It seemed to have worked, I think. At least the breeding worked out, so it has a shelf that you can use to take out the excess water that it sucks out of the air. I suggest getting a more expensive one. This is a cheap one. Better models are probably more effective, but it seemed to work. Have you guys ever used a dehumidifier? They suck the moisture out of the air. They have been kind of crucial in my breeding with walterorum, at least I think. I don't know if this thing made the difference, but I like to imagine it did. I use it indoor, in the house, in the same room with the caterpillars. You just turn it on. It starts to make the room more dry. Thank you for donating, guys. I afford equipment like this because of Patreon and your contributions. Folks, this generation of walterorum is also growing really well, beyond expectations, and I just gotta show you how variable these caterpillars are. It's brilliant. Now guys, slowly they are starting to be fully grown, and I really enjoy how they are kind of like Christmas decorations, folks. Take a look. If they grow bigger, they'll start assuming different colors. The caterpillars of this species are something special because they have at least 3 distinct color forms. Yellow, green, orange and red. Amazing. This extremely sensitive species, guys, to handle the caterpillars is really a bad idea. So why am I doing it? Well, I guess I'm always the exception to the rules I make myself. Bit hypocritical, but really just an educational moment here to show you how awesome they are and variable. We got a lot of color forms, at least this time. We have all the forms. We have the green, yellow, we got the pink form. Sometimes you don't get all the forms, you just get 1 or 2. But it's really pretty. They're like tiny Christmas decorations. Wow! Wow, 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 wow. That's fantastic. I love it. Enjoy this, because you're not going to see this on any other YouTube channel, you see. Other YouTubers, they are having skill issues, so they don't have the ability to breed species like these and show them off on YouTube. That's a skill issue. Just kidding. Just kidding, or am I? But for real, there's not many people on YouTube making this many content about this many obscure and unusual species that you usually don't see in social media or in media in general. I like to bring awareness to them. And just look at how awesome these caterpillars are. Guys and gals, time for another essential part of this video. I had trouble locating some of my caterpillars until I had a closer look. And I noticed this is why. This is why I struggled to find them. It's because some of them have been hiding inside the leaves with a mission, you see. They've started to spin cocoons, for which I'm grateful. Calosaturnia walterorum, in my opinion, is a species that is very hard to raise, especially outside of its native range. I think they could be easy to raise if you live in California, because you have the native environment and native conditions. So in California they are probably very easy to raise. But outside of that, they are very hard. They need dry, warm, hot conditions, which could be hard to provide in captivity. So getting them from egg to cocoon is actually difficult. It's not something that every breeder can do. So I'm proud of this moment, because this caterpillar, he is definitely building a cocoon. And there's more cocoons too. So is that not great? I think that's great. The cocoon is still transparent. We can literally see the larva still making a cocoon. And before you know if you did everything correctly, your caterpillars will make it to cocoons. If you made it this far, you did a really good job. Not many people have managed to raise this species successfully. There's a few people, but only a small handful. It's hard to get the conditions right for this special insect. This one right here is spinning a cocoon as we speak. First of all, don't expect all of your caterpillars to survive to cocoons. This species is very hard to breed and frankly very sensitive. If the humidity is too high, if they are too stressed, if they are too overcrowded, if they don't like the environment, if they don't like the food, the conditions, or if the bloodline is simply weak or inbred, they will die. They will die. It is a very sensitive species that is very difficult to raise, even for the most experienced moth breeders in the whole world. Thankfully, most of mine made it to cocoons. Thankfully, plenty of them did survive. Here is me collecting some of the cocoons from their enclosure. They often prefer to spin them in leaves, but in my case, some of the larvae also chose to go to the ground and chose to spin cocoons in the kitchen paper towels that I put on the floor for the same reason. Also, some leaves with caterpillars spinning cocoons on them had simply fallen to the floor. It's satisfying, it's like collecting Easter eggs. Thingies are the papery cocoons. This is what the pupa look like. I decided to take some of them out of the cocoon just for a short health inspection. I don't really recommend doing this, but I had to see if they pupated well. If you made it this far, congratulations. It's very hard to get these from egg to cocoon. If you managed to do it, write a comment. I'm very curious, what food plant did you use and what conditions? There's bad news though. The cocoons of this species need to hibernate. It's gonna be a whole year, well maybe a bit less, before you see the moths. You actually need to put them in cold storage. Let me show you how I did that. It's absolutely mandatory to store the cocoons cold for several months and then warm them up when it's spring, more or less. If you don't do this, the moths will never even develop in the first place. You need a lot of patience for this hobby. Let me show you what I did. I basically hibernated them in a small plastic box again. Aren't these useful? Let me show you. Hibernate the cocoons. I fill a box with a layer of tissue paper or paper towels and I add the cocoons on top. Next you need to expose them to cold temperatures for several months. And that's how you complete hibernation. Let me show you. Next thing that we have to do is we have to overwinter the species. We have to hibernate the cocoons. And the way I do that is by just placing the cocoons outdoors. Here in this plastic box. And believe it or not, even in my cold temperate country in Europe, the Netherlands, this moth from California can hibernate outdoors. This species is surprisingly cold hardy. Well, maybe not surprisingly if you understand their habitat, but I'll give you more details about that later. Just keep them cold until spring and warm them up if the weather improves. Alright folks, so right now we wait. While my moths are hibernating, they are overwintering. Something a lot of people don't consider is the production time of my videos. Some of my videos take a very long time to produce. I do a lot of effort, guys, in this channel. And as you can see, multiple seasons pass while I'm raising moths. A lot of species have to diapause or hibernate. And during this time I have to wait 3 to 6 months. While winter is just passing. I mean, I have a little bit of snow today even. Just to prove it's actually winter. And what I'm doing now is I'm waiting for spring. I'm waiting for spring to arrive so I can warm them up and we can continue to breed the insects. Winter is a very boring time for a moth breeder. Usually I take a break from breeding insects or I travel to tropical country instead. Ooh. Yeah, it's cold. Ooh. Alright guys, we're in the middle of winter. This is February. And just to prove it, as you can see there is snow everywhere. Some people will be like, Bart Coppens, are you crazy? This moth is from California. There's no way it will survive the freezing cold in Europe. Well, you're actually wrong, because this species is actually very cold hardy. First of all, they are from high altitude in the mountains. Now I know California gets super hot. You know, it's famous for being a very warm state in the United States of America. But actually they do have a winter. It is not a tropical place, not fully tropical at least. They have a temperate environment with a winter where it's cooler. But especially in the mountains in California, it can be freezing cold. And therefore these moths have actually developed a good cold resistance. And I'm just checking up on them. And the cocoons, they look and feel very healthy. It's going to be a few more months until spring, but until then I'm going to just keep them outdoors and warm them up only when it starts to get more warm and sunny. Spring is back again. Yep, this video took me a whole year to make, but you can enjoy it in less than 20 minutes or so. Just make sure to subscribe, I guess. Time to warm up the cocoons. Can a rare moth species from California survive the cold winter temperatures of the Netherlands in Northern Europe? Let's find out. You see? Thing is, it's currently spring. It's currently spring, things are warming up, so I'm taking them out of hibernation. I'm gonna see if we made it. If we managed to breed this rare difficult, dare I say expert level Saturnian. My moth breeding cage indoors. Wanna see a sneak peek? Yeah, this is a crazy amount of pupae, isn't it? And there's a lot of things hatching. Ooh. What's this? Ooh. Ooh, what's this, guys? What's this giant moth sitting here? Well, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it, because that's for future videos that I'm working on. Oh. Today, we're going to talk about these cocoons that I just took out of hibernation. Let's find a nice spot for them. Let's make a nice clearing for them here. Oh yeah, that looks great. And I'm gonna place them here. And if all goes well and they warm up to room temperature, in a few weeks moths should come out. Ooh. This is my insect breeding room. Today is today is time for a nice little cocoon inspection. I wonder how they're all doing. Oh, look at my little babies. Doing pretty well. Oh, what's this, guys? No way. This is a rarity, dude. This is Antherea montezuma from Mexico. An endemic rarity. But wait, my video is not about this species, is it? Whoa. That's for another life cycle. Silkmoth from tropical Africa. But hold on. Wait a second, what's this in the corner? Whoa! Finally! It was about time. I think we need to take this one outdoors for a close-up. This is the female of Walter Silkmoth. It kinda looks like those unusual Saturnia moths from Europe, but repainted in brighter orange. Well, if that's what you noticed, you are correct. They are a direct relative of the European Saturnia moths. Aren't they pretty? This is the male of walterorum. The male is much smaller and has brown forewings. The species, Calosaturnia walterorum, is a very short-lived species. Expect the adults to live between 5 and 10 days, dependent on the temperature. Like most emperor moth species, they have no functional mouth and they cannot feed to sustain themselves. Yep, they will die in about 1 to 2 weeks. Less is more. Guys, this is a small, tiny pop-up cage for moths. It's an old one. But these small-sized cages I noticed are the best for walterorum. They seem to pair more in small cages than big ones. Why, I don't know. If you want proof, let me show you. When left alone in a small pop-up cage, you will see much activity. Both males and females tend to fly a lot. They like to be active, in particular in the early morning hours, but also in the twilight, as the sun is going down. But you can see them move in almost any time of the day in some cases. This moth is a day-flying species, and the male and female actually need a little bit of visible light in order to mate. Here is a mating happening right in front of our eyes. The male is attempting to mate with the female. This is what lovemaking looks like. Don't worry about me handling them. During the mating, both the male and female are incapable of mating, of flying away. But just look at this. Can you believe this? So here's proof that they are pairing. We have to be careful. So if there's a proper mating, the abdomens of the male and female should be attached. So sorry for handling them, guys. I assure you, I am a professional. I know what I'm doing. It's okay. But here you can see the proof that the abdomen is connected. So yes, this means they are mating. I don't recommend that you handle moths during pairing. It can give them some stress, so let's put them away. This is just the proof. Proof that yes, indeed, these two lovers are mating! Dude, we did it! We did it! We raised freaking walterorum, and it ended with one mating that we actually observed. That's crazy, yo. The full life cycle of Walter Silkmoth is about to be completed right here. And the mating is very fast. It should last about 15 minutes or less. But this is why you should never doubt me, guys. Wow. And I can't believe we've done it on this channel. Another rarity down. That's fantastic. And there's a good chance that now this female is going to lay hundreds of eggs and we can continue the life cycle. Thank you, male. Despite your imperfections, you managed to do your job perfectly well. The males of this species are really small saturnids, even smaller than Pavonia, if you know what that means, Saturnia pavonia. Wow, we did it. They are mating right away. That is crazy. Leave it! We just had a pairing, and right after that another fresh male and female come out of the cocoons. That's wonderful, that's like a dream. Let's get them into the cage ASAP. That means as soon as possible. What? This species is so cool. Still hoping to get a better close-up of the males later. It really is one stunningly beautiful insect. That was worth the effort and worth the wait. Wow. Absolutely gorgeous. So cute. So adorable. So precious, so valuable. Oh, don't fly away. Don't worry, guys, my insects never escape or fly away. I'm very professional. I'm very conscious of the environment, even when handling exotic insects. Wow. So incredible. She just came out of her cocoon. So she isn't ready to fly yet. Although I hope she calms down. Come on, calm down. Calm down. No one is gonna hurt you. No one is gonna hurt you, cutie. This female is laying eggs. This is what egg laying behavior looks like. Guys, the past few days I've been incredibly busy, but the moths have been in the garden. I just didn't have the time to check up on them. And let me ask you a question. Would you believe me if I told you that all the moths have died? What? All of them have died? Bart, you didn't take care of them? Oh, you're a horrible moth breeder. Well, actually, this species only lives for a few days anyway. Their lifespan seems to be around 5 or 4 days, especially the males. If it's warm, they fly a lot and exhaust themselves. And the females, well, let's just say they tend to pass away really fast after laying their eggs. One of the females is actually still alive. Alright, yeah, so one of the female definitely has enough strength to fly around while the rest has died. Anyway, they've left a lot of eggs and I would like to harvest the eggs. Stop flying. Come on, girl. So these whitish things here in the corner next to this dead male are the eggs. I would like to collect some in a petri dish. Let's collect some. I'm just gonna do it using my fingers. Don't worry, the eggs have a very thick shell. They are not bothered by me collecting them this way. They like it. Well, they don't like it, they're eggs. There's a lot of eggs here on the cage walls. Let me take them off. Place them in the petri dish. Collecting all the eggs, folks. Right, guys, these are all the eggs. Ignore the music in the background. They have some silly kind of festival that's going on. Anyway, would you look at that? That's a lot of expensive eggs of a rare species, and I hope to God that they are fertilized. Let's really hope so. We see there is hundreds of babies, like literally hundreds and hundreds of little Calosaturnia walterorum caterpillars. Oh my God. I'm going to raise an army of them now. This is pretty insane, bro. This is insane. Oh my God. Wow. Then after a short while the moths will die of old age and the life cycle will be over, leaving no evidence but the babies that they produced. But you'll have enjoyed one amazing experience. One that challenges your knowledge and sensibilities as a moth breeder. What species should I breed next? If you have good suggestions, please leave a comment. Have you ever raised Walter Silkmoth yourself? Because tips and tricks are welcome too. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching the Calosaturnia walterorum video. If this video was useful, educational or entertaining for you, please consider becoming a member of my Patreon for as little as $1 or making a contribution to my channel via PayPal. Most of my YouTube channel is actually still very dependent on crowdfunding and donations. With the donations I buy equipment like this, dehumidifiers, expensive equipment that make breeding difficult species possible, but also the many pop-up cages, boxes and other materials that I need to use and buy constantly. Not to mention the time that goes into making these videos. I don't know if you've noticed, but all the seasons were represented in this video, even winter when I was hibernating the cocoons. Don't know if you noticed, but the production time of this video is 1 year. 1 year filming just to make a video that only gets a few thousand views. This is only possible because of the generous donations and contributions of my fans, viewers and subscribers. And only if more and more people join my Patreon will breeding more species, bigger species, better species, more rare ones, traveling to other countries and other stuff be possible. Basically, the more I earn on YouTube, the more I can do, the more above and beyond I can go to make awesome YouTube videos. Of course, donating is never mandatory. I also have an Etsy webshop where I sell things like framed butterflies, stickers, mugs, posters, dead dried insects that dried of old age, silk, and a book that I've written. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next moth breeding video. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye! This is the end of the video, folks. It's a little bit longer than my usual 5-step videos, but this is a really special species that warrants extra care. I didn't want to rush it, and I think people who want to read this species need detailed information. So this time I took the liberty to make it a little bit longer than usual. If you love moths as much as I do, hit that subscribe button. My channel has close to 2,000 free to watch moth videos at the moment, and the number is only growing and growing. Subscribe to my channel to see the rarest and most exquisite moth species in the world, and their life cycles too. I would really appreciate that. If you have any suggestions in the future for the moth species that I should raise next, then write it in the comments.